Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and the latest in my series of Stanley Kubrick reviews. We finally get to 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is a film that I've long had a bit of a love-hate relationship with. First time I saw it, did not like it at all. Second time I saw it, I absolutely loved it. So I kind of recommended it to a friend, ended up watching it with that friend and really didn't enjoy it at all. So yeah, I've been up and down. Whatever you want to say about this film, it is influential, it is absolutely stunningly made from a technical standpoint, and it is absolutely chock full of ideas. I like this film a lot. I would say it's a very good film for all the reasons I've just stated. My only real bugbear with it, and unfortunately this is quite a big bugbear, is that it is very plodding. It is very slow and, dare I say, in certain sections actually quite dull. I wish I didn't say that. I wish I wish that wasn't the case, but it's a subjective thing. If something bores you, then it bores you. And there are times during this movie where I definitely get bored. There's still a lot to love, like the sound design here. There's some really creative use of sound, particularly one moment when Dave goes out of the ship. He has to go out of the ship and he's in this spacesuit. And you just hear his breathing. There's no music, there's no other sound, it's just his breathing. And that creates tension. But for me, it went on a bit too long. It just seemed to go on and on and on. And Kubrick was going for absolute realism. During the writing of this, Arthur C. Clarke got to go and visit NASA. And I think that shows. They wanted everything to be as realistic as possible. And even by today's standards, when you look at a lot of science fiction films today, I still think a lot of what is going on here holds up. Obviously, they were a bit premature with regards to where we might be come 2001, but that doesn't matter because you can still very easily believe that we would get there at some point, given what we're given in this film. So that I really admire. And I think that realism, that attention or that desire to stick with realism does feed into a lot of these elements that kind of drag, because Kubrick wants to show us what it's actually like to have to go and do a spacewalk or go out and fix a piece of the ship. It would be long, it would be a process, unfortunately we have to be along for the entirety of that process. I do love the character of Hal. I think everyone does who sees this film. It's a very iconic character, even though it's just a red light. It's a red light with a voice that comes out, and I think it's the voice that gives Hal so much character. There's definitely a certain level of malevolence about him. He's essentially trying to wipe out the crew and go some way to doing a pretty good job about it. But yeah, there's also something very human about him as well, this idea that one day AI will become more human than human, which we pick up with Blade Runner. It's a great film in that respect, a lot of ideas. The technical aspects, you can take any frame from this film. I've said this numerous times with Kubrick. You can take a frame from this film and it's a work of art. It's just like the level of attention to detail here is staggering. I look at some of the sets that they've built, and even the ones that spin around. Even now, without going and looking at the behind the scenes stuff, there's one set where a character is running round it, and he goes upside down, and it's just, I look at it and I think, how did they do that? Even by today's standards, it looks very, very impressive. There are some moments that are a little bit hokey, like having signs on things to explain what they are, which is clearly there for our purposes, the audience's purposes, but when certain characters are reading those signs to figure out how to use like the lavatory or whatever, kind of makes you wonder why they would need to do that if they've been up into space a few times already. You'd think they'd know that stuff by now. But yeah, that's for our benefit, and part of this film, the kind of process behind it is really about giving us, the audience, that experience. It's almost like we're tourists and we're going along with certain characters just to see the everyday detail of what goes into putting people into space and keeping them there. Kubrick's use of music as well is absolutely revolutionary. You know, you look at the way he uses his classical pieces, like the Blue Danube and whatnot. It's just, yeah, it just brings a certain kind of elegance to humanity. You know, particularly with that cut when we go from the bone being thrown in the air to the ship in outer space. The way he sums up essentially however millions of years of evolution within one cut, within one jump cut. You know, we go from ape-like aggression to real elegance. You know, this beautiful image of space and mankind having kind of conquered it. There are a few moments as well with this flight crew. We get it's mainly this woman. She kind of brings meals and things, and at one point she picks a pen up from this guy's dropped, and it's kind of just floating around. Again, really simply done special effect, but yeah, very effective, it must be said. But the way she walks like someone pretending they're walking in space, you know, and it's a bit hokey, a little bit twee. And while the HAL section is probably my favourite, although I do think it could be tightened up a lot, I also really love the opening 20 minutes when we see Ape Man. And I've got to say, the special effects on those apes, really impressive. Like, for me, more impressive than Planet of the Apes. I know some people will hate me for saying that, because Planet of the Apes, I know the monkey effects in that were supposed to be like, you know, the business at the time. But for me, personally, I prefer what they did here. I full on admit that the costumes, the effects work in Planet of the Apes had to do a lot more. You know, they had to speak, they had to be properly articulate with the mouth. So I get that doesn't pass me by, don't get me wrong, but I like the look of the apes in this, and I like the performances by the people who were in them. I guess the Andy Serkis of their day. It feels like they're doing much more here to give ape-like movements to him. And again, I get that with Planet of the Apes, they're supposed to be evolved, they walk and talk like humans, but I like seeing that work that goes into the movement of the apes here. So 2001 is undoubtedly a masterpiece. I think it is a spectacular film, both from a visual standpoint and with the ideas it presents. I just think that personally, by today's standards, it is a bit slow, it is a bit plodding, and dare I say, boring in parts. That being said, I would still give this 4 out of 5, just because of the influence it's had, the impact it's had on cinema, and just how expertly directed it is by Kubrick. Like I say, every frame is a painting, is a work of art. So yeah, 4 out of 5 from me. What about you? What do you think about this classic? Please leave your comments in the section below and tell me what you think. And until next time, crack it.